Welcome. Come on in. It's Thursday and it's happy hour. Home happy hour to be exact. So grab a drink and let's get started. Hi everybody. It's Claire Paris with Paris Group Realty, LLC in Portland, Oregon. And today we're talking about what happens if the seller hasn't gotten out of the house that you just bought. Hopefully, you might have negotiated a rent back, and so it's actually a-okay. That would be the easy and nice answer to this question, but I suspect what you're talking about is the seller literally is not out of the house and they were supposed to be, and what do you do? I've only had this happen once in literally 1,000 transactions, and whoa, was it a doozy. It was people that had been there for 35 years. There was stuff piled all over the place, and we showed up at 5 p.m. when we were supposed to take possession, and there was still stuff piled all over the place. So my first call was to an attorney, of course, and then my second call was to a dumpster company because we just started helping these sellers throw stuff away. There was stuff literally everywhere, inside, outside, backyard, garage, everything. So it actually took the seller about 3 extra days to get out of the house. We had talked to an attorney and they were like, yeah, we can file all this paperwork for you, but it's going to take time and cost a lot of money. So if they're making an effort to get out, well, then just be patient with them. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it's a lot cheaper than hiring an attorney and taking it to court and all of that nonsense. So the reality is this hopefully will not happen to you. On the flip side, if it's just actually a negotiated rent back, if the seller's not out of the house when they're supposed to be out of the house, typically you got a deposit, and ideally it's going to have been a deposit that was made out to you, buyer, before closing. That's usually what I do for my buyers. So you might have $3,000 extra of the seller's money, and then at that point you're like, cool, I'm just going to keep some of this money. You can charge them the daily mortgage rate. You can charge them for the amount of money it costs you to get all the rest of the stuff out, have it cleaned, all of that. You can call them up and just, well, actually it's my job to call them up and say, hey, you give us $3,000, we're going to take $1,500 of it because of all this stuff that you didn't do. And that actually works pretty well. So it's a great stick as well for this to motivate the seller to actually do the work. So the absolute worst case scenario perhaps is the seller really won't leave, has no intention to leave, hasn't even moved a stitch of anything. In that instance, you're gonna wanna call an attorney, number one. And then two, what you wanna avoid is a tenancy arrangement. So if someone's squatting in your house, you have a lot more rights than if you actually have an agreement with them or you assume an agreement. So let me kind of give you an idea. And this gets super gray, but if you were like showed up and the seller's still there and you're like, yeah, cool, no problem, I'll give you another 6 months to move out, that's a problem. You don't want to create an without realizing a tenancy agreement with the seller, because once you've said, oh yeah, it's cool, all of a sudden now you have a tenant living in your home and not paying you rent. So you want to make sure that as quickly as you possibly can, you notify them, hey, this isn't okay. Hey, you need to get out of here, and we're going to take steps to get you out. Okay, so what happens if they won't leave? What do? You call 1-800-LAWYER is what you do. You're going to want to get a hold of an attorney because the attorney has to file paperwork on your behalf, and there are very strict guidelines as to timelines and what's filed when and how it works. So reach out to me. I have attorneys that I can refer you to. You definitely don't want to do that part on your own. Now, if on the rent back side, the seller is unwilling to get out of the property, there, of course, you have that $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever amount you took as the deposit, and sometimes that's enough to get them out. Otherwise, you're going to be going same route, calling an attorney and getting them to file paperwork to get them evicted from the property. Those are the options that you have. Ultimately, unfortunately, it goes to a legal battle, but I've never actually seen that happen, thank goodness. So as always, it's a pleasure talking to you on our home happy hour, and I will see you next week. Cheers.